Hey everybody, welcome to Bestie Book Reviews. I'm here with my bestie Mandy, but we are here with narrator Tor. It's Tor, right? Tor
Thom. Yep, that's
Tor
me.
Thom. I've been
Thom.
saying it. I'm like, now I just panicked all of a sudden. Like, oh my gosh, do I say it wrong? No. Okay, good. Hi, thanks for being here.
Hi, happy to be here. Happy to be here.
Yeah, we're excited to have our first narrator on here. So
yes,
yeah, absolutely.
So thanks. Yeah,
Jessica is very excited to have you on here because of a particular character you've narrated.
Ah, okay.
Are you going to share that, Jessica?
Oh, you were Remo in Cora
Yes.
Reilly's. Yeah, you were Remo.
Yes.
I actually listened to Remo yesterday.
Oh, nice.
In preparation for this.
And I am still Remo. There's a new one coming out very, very soon. So it's a kid.
Is it the one that comes out this month?
I think so. Yeah.
I have it on pre-order. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Nice.
Good. Yes. And you did other characters in that series too. Other books.
I have. Yeah. I've done a couple for Cora.
Yeah.
A lot of fun. She's good to read for.
She's good. We like her books. Love her books.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right.
So our first question is, what type of books do you narrate, or what are you most known for? So we know why Jessica knows you so well, but
No, yeah. So I romance dash erotica. I mean, that line, sometimes gets a little blurry. That's most of my books in Audible. It was the genre that sort of found me, I guess you would say. And so I tell people sometimes that in the narration world, sometimes you aim for this or that particular genre, but directors and authors and producers have ways of sort of connecting voices with genres, and it's the genre that found me. And I don't know, 500 something books later, it's it's where I am.
So they just listened to your voice and went, "You would be good for romance."
Yeah, it sort of works like that. I mean, it's a little more subtle. It's usually along the lines of, "Would you be willing to read?" And then you say yes, and then one thing leads to another, and there you go.
You're down a slippery slope. Yep.
Indeed.
Yep. Awesome.
So I was just looking on Audible, and so you just answered my question. It shows that there's over 500 results for you.
Right.
That's a lot of books to read.
Yeah, no, it is. I mean, it's fun. It's I don't know what to say. It surprises me sometimes, just kind of the ride. It was not something I expected in terms of my life, to find myself as a romance narrator. I wasn't like a childhood goal I put down, like in junior high or something. Career day, romance narrator. But no. So the work keeps coming, and I enjoy it, and I enjoy the community of people.
Yeah.
It's a really sex positive, kind of place that allows people to explore and imagine. And I'm happy to be a part of that. So I've kind of settled in.
So then on average, how many books do you narrate a month?
That's a good question. It varies depending upon the length. And so narrators often talk in terms of finished hours, which is not the actual hours in the booth, but the number of hours of finished audio. And so I usually try to average between 40 and 50 finished hours a month. And so a lot more time goes into that than just the audio itself, but that's kind of my goal. Narrators often talk about 40 hours as like full time. I mean, that's kind of, you're staying pretty busy. So 40 to 50. Yeah.
Okay.
So
I'm just super curious about this. It's not on our list of questions, but if you get sick and you have a cold, do you still record, or do you have to take that time off?
Oh, no. That's like Phoebe Buffay in Friends when she got the cold and was singing Smelly Cat. It was like
it's colds are expensive. Because it does mess everything up. And so, I mean, when you start, we all do things, whether it's, a certain kind of tea, or we have certain things that we do to keep our nasal passages clear. I don't want to get too much in the weeds of all that and bore and gross people out. But, I mean, we do things to take care of ourselves. But, in certain instances, you get sick, and people are paying for the voice, right? I mean, that's what they're that's what they're paying for. And if you sound, like a dying frog, in southern Louisiana, it's not going to go well. And
No.
and so you just I mean, yeah, so you have to tell, email people and say, listen, I'm sorry, I don't sound right, and then you hope it gets fixed pretty quick.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, you don't. I mean, sometimes you can get away with a little bit, but and with my register, because I'm more in the deeper register, I maybe have a little bit more grace because I'm sort of down here deep and growly kind of anyway. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's a good question. It's a really
Yeah.
good question. No, I cannot tell you how frustrating it is when you wake up and the first word's out, or like you feel that stuff in the back of your throat, and you just know, like, oh no,
Yeah.
this is happening. So
Yeah, that's got to be pretty rough. And when you have kids, they bring things home,
They do.
especially when they're in school. Or like Mandy, she's a teacher. She's
Right.
just exposed to tons of kids all the time. So
yeah, no, so like, yeah, we all, I mean, we do things, I mean, very proactive, to try to get sleep, try to exercise, try to eat right, and you take things, if the kids come in sniffling, I mean, you may take a lesser vitamins or something, do whatever you have to do, because it can get really expensive, and it can mess up schedules, because there's sort of there's a domino effect, right? Because if you're late, then other people, they've scheduled proofers, and then there's a domino effect on them, and the whole thing kind of starts to fall apart. And then you yourself have to then somehow find a way to catch up. And yeah,
it's a thing.
It is a thing. It is a thing. So
yeah.
Yikes.
Yeah.
So do you have a favorite character you have portrayed?
Oh,
I know that's a hard question. That
Yeah.
came from some
500
of our
books.
viewers that wanted to know.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's so my favorite characters are broken male characters that have had some sort of major life, let's just call it disturbance, or trauma, of some type. And so I think, like, for a lot of actors, if you can easily plug into something that resonates with you, it's very easy to pull out all of those emotions. And so, like all of us, I've been through some things, and the older that I am, the more things you go through. But there have been, really difficult moments, and finding male characters that have experienced that, it is, yeah, it's wonderful. And I will say too that usually, an author, and most of the authors that I read for are women, that take the time to actually explore men and the complications of a male psyche beyond just like the stereotypes. Those are my favorite, sort of characters. I'll say I've done, without naming a specific character, I've read a number of really broken male characters for Pepper Winners, and so some really gut wrenching scenes and characters, and yeah, I mean, I've enjoyed that.
Yeah, I like her books. I like her stuff. I normally listen if there's audio, so I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
All right. Do you have any particular, this is also a viewer question, do you have any particular routines before you start recording?
I do. I mean, it actually depends a little bit on the season, but I always get my throat coat tea, no matter how hot it is. I have that just as kind of, as I prepare that. I do have a nasal routine that I do. I won't say anything more than that.
No,
but
I have a daughter who has sinusitis, so I'm sitting here going, yeah, I can picture that.
I have allergies, so
yeah. So I do that. So my booth is actually, I converted the third garage in my home into a recording studio, and I live in Michigan, and so temperatures can be kind of different ways, so I've come out here before, and it's been, well below freezing, and have a little heater, so turn it on, and do those things. And if it's in the summer, and we've had some days getting close up in the 90s here, and a little in the 90s, I have ice packs, that you put on your head, or you wrap around your neck, or do whatever you do. And usually spend a minute or two, in addition to the prep you've done, kind of rethinking through the character, and kind of where you need to be. Sometimes it's a little more difficult than others to kind of get into that space mentally, but that's kind of my routine.
I'm currently leaning up against ice packs, so I got you.
Right. There you go.
Because we have window units for AC, so when it's warm in here, I can't have the window units going when we're recording, so I sit up against ice packs.
Right. No, that's what you do. So, I mean, you'll see pictures on social media of narrators. We start stripping in the booth, and it's a thing, because you cannot have air. You can't have air moving that you can hear. It ruins everything. So
yeah, I remember listening to a book a while back, and you could hear something in the background. And I was like, "What is going on? What is happening?" There was a lot of background noise. So
yeah, it happens, and if you live close to a lot of other people, particularly in the summers, you can get lawnmowers and leaf blowers. Leaf blowers are the bane of our existence. We won't go down that rabbit trail.
Okay. We have trains here. You hear the train quite often.
Got it.
That's what's holding you back from your narrator career, Jessica.
That is the only thing that's holding me back from my narrator career. Yep.
Those damn trains.
Damn trains. Yeah.
So I think you've touched on some of this, but what are some of the most challenging aspects of narrating a book?
So I mean, there's logistics on the front end, right? In terms of coordinating with the author and or other narrator or narrators, depending upon how many there are, to make sure you're all on the same page before you start recording in terms of pronunciation. And even though you do that work, sometimes you end up with different results, and then there's pickups and things like that, and then sometimes waiting on the other narrator to give a sample, or they're waiting on you. And I've been on both sides of that coin, and so the logistics of it can be a little tricky in terms of that if there's other people involved. But I mean, that's the most difficult thing for me. I would say some narrators have a lot of issues around content, things they will and they won't read, and triggers and things of that type. I was a professor in a former life. I taught ancient literature, Greek and Latin, medicine, some religion, philosophy, kind of stuff like that. And so I'm not really big on I'm kind of against censorship. And so if it's legal, I will read it. With that said, there are still some scenes that authors will write that can be really hard, that just are just unbelievably hard. And those scenes are usually in the books that I read, often backstory, some real trauma that happened, and that can just be you kind of have to check yourself, maybe step out of the booth and scream at the universe or something. I mean, it's that can be a little challenging. Portraying awful humans or awful beings, let's say, because it's not necessarily a human always, depending upon what genre you're into, can be challenging too, but fun in its own way as an actor.
Yeah, I can imagine, because just reading those scenes sometimes are hard, or listening to those scenes are hard.
Oh yeah,
so
it's
portraying
hard
that
stuff.
character.
It's hard stuff.
Yeah.
Can be.
For me, it's like if there's kids involved, that's where it gets.
Oh,
really
that's sometimes authors will explore, why is this male the way this male is, and then they'll do a flashback scene, and then all of a sudden you're narrating all the characters in this flashback scene, and it's hard.
It's hard.
But I tell myself in those moments, like Charlize Theron in the movie Monster, I mean, she inhabits, this character who does all these things. That's what a good actor does, but it's not always easy. Not always easy, for sure.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, I'm looking for the next question.
I was like, did you lose your spot?
Well, no, the next question kind of really turns it to a different, we're all heavy, and now I'm going to ask you, can you share any funny or memorable moments from recording? So I was looking ahead to see if I could swap the question.
Yeah, the funniest things are, Yeah. So I was actually recently narrating a story in which the heroine in the story was trying to become a romance author,
Mhm.
but she was intentionally really bad at it. And she got better as the book went on. There's this kind of a development that happened, but there was just some lines in there that it was clear that the author was just having a lot of fun. And I just I mean, I was trying to, I could probably find it pretty quickly, but it was something to do with the sea and pirates and something and trying to turn it into a sexual. It was so bad, so bad. I mean, the common things, are
Mhm.
like you're supposed to say cock and you say clock,
Yeah.
or and then like it comes back as a pickup, and you're like, there's no way. There's no way. And someone, listened and marked it and sent it back and said,
Mhm.
"You're supposed to say cunt and you said punt." And like you're just like, how does this happen? And so you just have to laugh at yourself
Yeah.
and kind of move on. But those are funny moments. Yeah.
Okay. So when you're narrating, do you prefer to do um duet narration or just or dual narration or just on your like what do you like to do most?
Um, I I enjoy, I think, as a final product when I'm in duet or multicast
Yeah.
kind of things, and in part that's because the range of my voice is such that I I really cannot passably sound like a woman.
Right.
Or most, I mean, it just doesn't happen,
Right.
and so I can try to do some weird falsetto thing, but then that just sounds really strange. And
Mhm.
so, I just try to make it clear to the listener by whether that's breathing or tone changes or whatever that now a woman is talking.
Mhm.
And that problem is completely alleviated, in duet or multicast.
Mhm.
And so I enjoy those. I know some people love duet, and I know some people hate duet. But yeah, I like being paired in some way. It's occasionally I will be cast as the sole narrator of an entire
Mhm.
book, but it has changing points of view, and I'm always like, really, you want me to do the male and the female
Yeah.
chapters? And
Yeah.
they're like, yeah, that's for whatever reason, whether
Mhm.
it's financial projections for the book or whatever it is, they don't want to cast two people, and so I'm like, okay, well,
Here we go.
buckle up. Buckle up. I'm gonna do my best.
Mhm.
But yeah.
Yeah. I remember when I first heard my very first duet narration. I think it was a Tate James, one of her
Hmm.
series, and I remember the first time going, "Oh, I don't like this. What is it?" And it took me like getting through it.
Yeah.
Now I'm like, that's what I love is the
Right.
duet narration. But it took a little bit of getting used to when you're used to hearing either dual or just one person doing the whole thing.
Right.
You got to give it more of a chance, I guess. So
Indeed.
yeah.
Absolutely.
How does recording a duet narration work?
I mean, it happens in all kinds of different ways. So sometimes you're actually in the same physical space with the other person. And so you're on different mics and you're actually kind of interacting with each other live, as it were, and that creates a really interesting audio product. Most often, I would say, somebody goes through and prepares the lines, and so you'll have a chapter, and it'll be like they'll call it the wild lines chapter. And so your job is to go and read along. That can be a little challenging though, because you really do have to kind of get in the moment, or you're going to end up with a very different kind of emotional register than what's
Mm-hmm.
happening. And so that's and even if even let's say it is an intense moment, let's say it's an argument or a sex scene or something like that. It everybody narrates those a little differently, and so it's hard to kind of guess if someone you're not hearing what they're doing. You're reading what they're reading, but you're not exactly sure what their take is going to be. So you do your best. Um, Others will people will call each other, or do Zoom, and you can mute one end or the other in terms of what gets picked up and is transmitted, but you can hear it like inside your headphones in certain ways. There's ways you can do all of that, and so you can distance kind of do in the same space, but somebody then still has to go back afterwards and master all the files down and bring it all together to make it smooth.
Mm-hmm. I've always wondered about that with couples who are married that do it because I think
Yep.
when Ross and Kai Kennicott are a married couple. So do they do it together when they're in the same room, or do they just, you know, because like, how does that work?
I don't know how Kai and Win do that. There's a couple of others too. You know,
It's interesting.
Maybe depends upon, you know, who's taking care of kids at the time,
right?
You know, or something along those lines,
right?
And you know, or maybe they go in and they record theirs, and then they mark the spaces visually in the audio for the other to come in and put in the. There. There's different ways to do it.
Yeah. It's just always interesting to me. I'm like, are they in there reading to each other? Is this like their thing that they do? Like, how does this work?
You know, you can do that. I mean, if you have a big enough studio space. So
yeah. Just curious.
Cozy, but you can do it.
Sure, I'm mature enough. I think that some of those lines would, like, if I was looking at like somebody else was in the space and I was reading some of the lines from some of the books I've read, I don't think I would be able to do it with a straight face.
Yeah, so my booth is not big, but I've structured it so that I can basically half the booth. And then set the mics up so that one mic is in control of the other mic, and I do record some duet in my booth, and so it's real time, you know, kind of back and forth, and it can be funny, you know, you know, because you can say things to each other, like, you know, like, so you're reading a sex scene and your other narrator can say, no, she wants it harder, come on, give it to her, and then like you have to, like, you know, put some sort of signal, you know, like, okay, edit that part out. Okay, now back, trying again, you know, and people do that in different ways to signal. There's ways you can spike the audio so you know when that happens, so you can go back and edit it pretty easily. Some people use clapping, like at the microphone. Many use dog clickers if you're in that kind of situation. So it's a very noticeable visual spike that allows you to edit out directorial or humorous moments that happen when you're narrating at the same time in the same space.
I know, Mandy, you're saying that you wouldn't be mature enough. I'm just picturing doing a duet narration with my husband. He wouldn't be mature enough. Like, he couldn't handle it.
Yeah.
No. He'd be like, oh, okay. No. Yeah. I mean, I just tell him lines from books sometimes, and then I hear it again. I'm like, nope, that doesn't sound right. Nope, don't say that to me, please. So.
Right.
Yeah.
So what do you like to do in your free time?
Oh gosh, free time. That's a thing, right? Yeah, I don't have a lot of free time in terms of this particular moment in my life, with you know, children and other things. I try to row every day, and that's sort of my daily kind of free time event. I have a water rower, and so I do that, and then I usually record deep into the night, midnight 1 or 2, and then try to end the night looking at the stars in the hot tub and kind of recalibrate for the day, crash, and start all over again.
Yeah. Sounds about right.
Yeah. So can you share any current projects you're working on or anything that's going to be coming out soon? And it's okay if you can't.
Yeah, no, this is always hard because, like, I thought, okay, I'm going to be asked this question, and I started to look at my calendar, and there's a lot of stuff in there, you know, and I mean, we already mentioned earlier the Cora Reilly, you know, thing, and I always feel bad when I answer the question, because I'm like, after, like, oh, I should have remembered, you know, this or that, and so. And then I feel bad, and I feel like I have to apologize to an author because I didn't mention their book. And it was like the most obvious thing I should have mentioned. And so let me just punt and say there's a lot of really good stuff coming from Tor. And there are pre-orders, I think, going now into November or December on some of the Audible books that are coming, and more coming down the pike.
If Audible was a little more streamlined with looking that up, we'd be able to, like, spit them out, but you have to put on all sorts of filters to figure that out. So
yeah. I mean, if I found a quick way that if you actually search the narrator's name and then click on the narrator, it will sort, and then if you do newest to oldest, it'll pull it up usually.
Yeah, every week I like to go and see what's new, like what's coming that's new, what's coming up. But sometimes it shows, and sometimes then things will like just pop up the day. Tuesday's like the big release day for a lot of audiobooks, right? And then all of a sudden on Tuesday, we'll be like, oh my gosh, there's a Cora Reilly book here, and it wasn't in the list of what was coming 3 or 4 days ago. You never know what's going to pop up. So
no, that's absolutely true. And different production companies and different authors have different arrangements in terms of getting pre-orders up or not getting pre-orders up, and just kind of having it, hey, it's here,
Yeah, exactly. So. All right, what you got, Maddie? What else?
Okay, my next question, we talked about this before we started recording, but I'm sure there's people watching that will want to know, will we see you at any signings?
Yes. So I will be at Raven's Spicy Reads in Scottsdale, actually in about a month. And then I'm going to be at Love in Vegas, and as well as Authors in the Bluegrass, though in different orders. And then I'm planning already, into the next year. So I'll be back at Wild and Windy in Chicago, and probably back in Vegas, and we'll see about others. I feel like the cons are getting to be a bigger and bigger thing, with narrators playing a role in that. So opportunities, and I'll bring my tour balls as I do. See, there you go, right?
I have mine over here.
Do you have yours, Mandy?
Yeah, I can't quite reach it.
We were in the car the other day, and my husband, he calls it lip jizz. He's like, "You got any lip jizz for me?" And I handed it over. He's like, "What is this?" And I was like, "It's lip jizz. Just use it."
Nice. No, it's so my running shtick was should I get blue ones? Because then it would be blue tour balls. But that just really doesn't make sense. Like keeping your lips moist and blue balls, those really are not harmonious.
They don't go together, right?
They don't.
All right. So how did you get into this?
It's a great question. And you're probably not going to believe the answer, but it's absolutely true. I grew up in small community theater on the stage, but then sort of left that world and entered the world of the academy and pursued becoming a professor. And I was actually teaching at a university. And every Tuesday, I would go to Rosa's Cafe, which is a chain down in Texas, for Taco Tuesday. And
nice.
to get tacos, cheap tacos for the family. And I would get up to the window to pay. So you go to the stand, and there's pick your tacos, whatever, talk to the person, then go up to the window and pay and get the tacos. And I would get up there to pay, and there would be a gaggle of young ladies there to give me my tacos and take my money. And I'm thinking, this is the most poorly run establishment I have ever seen in my life. It does not take this many employees to provide tacos. Well, then one day, I guess she forgot to take her hand off the little clicker as she was talking back and forth, to the speaker system. And I heard her yell out, "It's the guy with the voice."
Oh my gosh.
To everyone else, and to the other employees. And so she was summoning them. And so anyway, I thought, well, and people had said you have a nice voice or whatever here or there, but I thought, maybe there's something to this. And so I started out just various websites where you can go and audition for all kinds of things, and ended up doing some political commercials actually in Canada, which is strange. And then that's kind of feast or famine though, but long narration, or audiobooks as they're called, is kind of where the stable work is. And so I ended up doing that, and then the romance genre found me, and the rest is history. So to speak.
That's interesting. My son is in theater and in choir, and he just graduated, and he has a nice deep bass. He holds the choir, and he has no clue what he wants to do, but he knows he doesn't want to actually go into theater. I'm like, not that I want to encourage my son to do that, but at the same time,
there's other genres.
Thank God.
There are lots of genres. I will also say, I've worked in various capacities in the publishing world. The dirty secret, or the not so dirty secret, of publishing writ large, of all publishing, is that romance is the economic driver behind all publishing. It's the most content is produced. It employs so many cover designers, editors, authors. You name it. It really is the economic engine that makes the whole thing go.
It is.
And so sometimes people in the publishing world, they kind of look down on romance, like, this is like some kind of inferior genre, or something like that. And that's pretty frustrating, because I don't
It
think they
is.
realize the economic power and the importance of the genre,
Mm-hmm.
as well as all the smiles that romance brings.
Exactly.
Right.
Well, I think it's the same just in general. When people hear that you read romance, they're like, oh my gosh, they're totally reading bodice rippers or whatever. And it's like, it's
Right.
not like that anymore. That's not what the genre is about. But you see worse stuff watching Game of Thrones or House of the Dragon than, I mean, I guess I kind of read stuff like that too. But still, like, you're getting worse out there. I mean, they just label that as fantasy or horror or whatever, and you're good to go. But you say romance, and people are like, oh my gosh.
Right.
Yeah.
So what I heard you say is that you owe your whole career to tacos.
I did. I do. And yeah, it's yeah. So it was yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
that's
Taco Tuesday
awesome
for the
story.
win.
Right.
So,
I mean, cheap tacos and a career.
Why not? That's awesome.
Right. There you go.
Yeah.
So I have another question for you that's not on our list, but so how long have you been doing this to have over 500 books done?
Yeah.
I started about 8 years ago. About 8 years ago. Slowly at first, and then it started to kind of really pick up. You kind of go from 10 to 20 a year to 30 to 40, and then you end up, getting closer like to 80 or to 100 a year, yeah. So just not that long, I guess. Some have been in the game longer. But again, I mean, in the romance genre, there's such a constant supply, that it's easy to kind of rack up those numbers pretty quickly.
Yeah. So then do you read on top of that, like, for pleasure?
Yeah, I mean, I usually when I'm reading, though, it's usually kind of academic or history of some type, whether that's deep human history or science popularized, something along those lines. But I do.
Okay.
All right. That brings me to our very last question, which would be, what is the best way for readers to connect with you?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I mean, the easiest way is social media, whether that is Instagram or Facebook, or I finally have broken into the TikTok world, and so I'm starting to produce some TikTok content now. We'll see how that goes. But it's just it's Tor Thom, so it's TORTHOM, Tor Thom, and then you can usually find me pretty quickly. It's kind of a unique name. If you spell it Thor, you will get different, results in terms of that, which
You'll
is
get
not
the guy that chops wood.
right, exactly. And so yeah, no, that's the easiest way to do it. My email address is simply Tor Thom Narrator, pretty simple, at gmail.com. So but yeah, I'm on Instagram and other places, so people can message me or say hello, or like
I'm
what I
not
do.
sure what it is about TikTok that everybody's the most, like, that's the one that everybody's the most reluctant about, because whenever we ask this question, we have authors all the time go, I just started a TikTok. Like, nobody wants to do it, but you end up doing it after a while.
It's I mean, yeah, it's sort of a, it's another thing to sort of do, and it has its own kind of algorithms and its own way of working, and you have to relearn kind of a new platform, and so it's we do it. I mean, it's part of the thing. So
it is. I know, because I dragged my feet for a long time on doing it, and then we started it, and we had a video that went crazy, and overnight we had 3,000 people, and we only had like a couple hundred the day before. I'm like, what is this? So it was very interesting, but I still drag my feet with it sometimes, because I'm like, it's just another thing to do.
It is, but it if you go viral,
you do good. Yeah.
You do. So, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. All right, we good?
That is all the questions.
Okay. I'm gonna wrap it up, and then just you can stay on, and then we can end it and then talk. Yeah.
Sure.
I'll tell you why in a minute. So.
Oh, I forgot to say that, didn't I?
It's okay. I remembered. I'll cut it out. It's okay. So. All right. Well, thank you for being here. It was a
Oh, my
lot of
pleasure.
fun.
This was so much fun. Thank you so much.
It's fun, especially being our first narrator. We got some of our questions out of the way that we're like, how do they do this? How does this happen? So thanks for that.
I'm happy to be the first.
Thank you. So, all right, guys, thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next video.